Hi, welcome to today's devotional podcast with Dr. Jacob Al. We are continuing our series on naked and not ashamed, sexual intimacy among Christian couples. We have spent the past episodes examining the root causes for non orgasmic wives, or the reasons why some wives never achieve orgasm during love making. And some of the reactions and feedback I got from some of the men were, what when will I begin looking at the root causes of the husband's inability to help the wife achieve orgasm? In other words, when will I begin addressing erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation? And fortunately, as I told you in the last episode, we have ended that of the woman, and we are now going to look at the husbands. So we will be looking at the various aspects of erectile dysfunction, or what is known as premature ejaculation. And today's episode will be an introduction to that, and subsequent episodes will address some of the root causes and how to overcome these problems in order to make both couples be able to pleasurize each other in the act of love making. So today, once again, our text is taken from First Corinthians chapter 7, verses 3, and I'm reading from the NLT. The husband should fulfill the wife's sexual needs, and the wife should meet the husband's needs. So the husband has the responsibility of fulfilling the wife's sexual needs. That's what Paul advises in First Corinthians chapter 7, verses 3. Now, if there are reasons why the husband cannot perform this, fulfill the wife's sexual needs, then there's the need to discuss it and try to find solutions to it. But unfortunately, when it comes to the issue of sex, it is a no go area for a lot of men and even women. For some reason, in the Christian circles, it is not something that is to be discussed. It's a taboo to talk about these. But that is the way that the enemy has been able to make it an undiscussed area and have kept husbands in ignorance. And as a result, they just accept the fact that, well, maybe because of their age, or they are just not able to do this, so they just resign themselves to accepting whatever has come their way. And invariably, because they fail to address this problem, the marriage is without a spike, and then they are tempted to look elsewhere to satisfy themselves, which therefore gives the enemy, the devil, a footstool into their marriage. And as I've always mentioned, sexual problems can metastasize or invariably become spiritual problems. Why do I say that? If you are unable to satisfy each other because you are all biological human beings and you have biological needs, these are pleasure glands and drives towards pleasuring each other is you are biologically made up that way. And so once you are in the context of marriage and you are unable to satisfy yourselves in this area, then you normally will look elsewhere for that satisfaction. You may say, well, Dr. Jacob, I and my wife, we just don't have that problem. We've just decided that this is an area that we can never achieve sexual satisfaction with each other. So we just are living together in the marriage, and it's no big deal. We love each other. Wrong. The fact that this is a gift that the Lord has given to marriages to bring about bonding, mutual understanding, and bonding. And I have sometimes referred to a good, agreeable sexual interaction with each other as one of the reasons, as a problem solver in marriage. And so if you neglect that and you bring yourself to accept the fact that as a couple, you don't really need to have sex in your life. You love each other, and so that's it. You just live with each other, and you don't have that physical contacts with each other that produces some chemistry that brings about bonding. Then your marriage will be so dry, and in the end it will become fruitless, or better still, it will become stale, and you begin to look for excitement outside the marriage. And that is what this series is trying to address and prevent from happening to your marriage. Invariably, apart from finances, sexual issues is the second problem that affects marriages, that brings about marriage breakdowns. Because why? Inability to satisfy each other invariably will drive the husband into pornography, and invariably, eventually, probably drive him into promiscuity. And in the same way, you may say, well, I'm a woman, I don't really have a problem. You are lying. You are a biological being. You may be ignoring the edges, but believe me, when the right circumstances are created, even though you may not, you are so disciplined that you may not physically get yourself entangled with another man outside your marriage bed, the fact that you once a while look at pictures or even see men that you just wish in your mind that you were in bed with them means you have already crossed the line. What did Jesus say? It is not only when you have slept with a man or a woman that you have committed fornication or adultery, but if you look at a man lustfully, so you don't necessarily need to book a hotel room or find a secret place and you meet and actually have the act that you have committed sin. But the fact that you engage your mind to it and begin to imagine things and begin to feast on another man's body and begin to think that, oh, how I wish I could have such and such a man on bed, you have already crossed the line. And why will you have those thoughts? Is when your man, whom you are married to, is incapable of satisfying you. That is when those thoughts will come. And so, as Paul is saying here, husband should fulfill his wife's sexual needs. And if ED or erectile dysfunction will be the cause of you being unable to fulfill this command from Paul, then there is a problem. You want to talk about it and you want to find solutions to it. And don't let the enemy keep you in darkness. And you never talk about it. It's a no-go area. You keep it to yourself. Sometimes it's said that the problem half told is half solved, or the problem told is half solution. You have half of the solution as long as you open up and talk about it. So we're going to open up the door to this huge elephant in the closet of most men that they hardly talk about. And believe me, this erectile dysfunction from the studies these days, it's not an issue of age. We have young people as young as in the young adults, 20 to 30s, are beginning to experience erectile dysfunction. They just can't last long. And why is that so? There are several reasons. And so we are going to be looking at some of the root causes of erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, and then we will address some of them. It is amazing. Some of them, the solutions to some of these problems are so simple that the lack of knowledge in this area is causing people to perish. A simple exercise in the act of love making could, even as simple as how you breathe in and out, could fix this problem that most men are not aware of. And so, again, I would always want to make people be assured that the information they are getting from me with regards to this is not hearsay, or I just picked them from here and there. uh, I gathered this information from my PhD in psychology class that I'm currently doing, with emphasis on marriage and sexuology. In other words, sexual intimacy. And so, the textbook that I use for this course, one of it is Intended for Pleasure, which is written by Dr. Ed Whitt. It is the main resource I'm using for these series, but there are other references that I'll be sharing with you, that even online websites that you can go to and find detailed information about what I'm discussing with you. Now, the information that I'm sharing with you is peer reviewed, in the sense that they are scholarly research materials, information that I'm sharing with you. If it's a textbook meant for a PhD, then you damn will be sure that it is peer reviewed. There are studies that are thoroughly researched and reviewed by other peers of their in their industry. And so, it is information that is credible. And that is what I want to say up front. I'm not just picking information from anywhere, but this information is coming from a credible source. So, in a study conducted by the National Sexual Health Commission, which is also called the National Sexual Coalition, it was found that 1/3 of husbands ejaculate sooner than they or their wives would like. So, this is what it means: 1 out of 3 men, when it comes to foreplay, or when it comes to love making, the men will always ejaculate far sooner than they will like, or their wives will like. In other words, they just can't last long with an erection. Okay. And this is a study conducted by the National Sexual Health Commission, a whole commission meant to look at sexuality among men. They came out with this study, and they are saying 1/3 of men, 1 out of every 3 men, will experience premature ejaculation. Okay, so this is a credible study. That is a study conducted by the National Sexual Health Coalition. And in fact, the statistics that not even consider the scores of husbands who are okay with when they ejaculate, but would enjoy learning some tricks and tips for stretching out their sexual experience. So, in other words, uh, don't think you are alone if you want to last long in bed. The fact is that many husbands want to learn techniques so that they can control when they come, regardless of whether they last 30 seconds, 2 minutes, or 20 minutes. So the fact is this: the myth and the lie that the enemy will tell you as a man, that, oh, you are the only one who is going through this problem. And so, just keep it to yourself. Don't shame yourself by going out there and seeking for help. That's a lie from the pit of hell. I mean, and you may say, well, hey, at my age, I'm hitting 60, I'm over 45, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70, and so maybe I've just lost the pleasure. Now, don't, remember, you are not alone thinking this way. In the Bible, when the angels came and visited Sarah and Abraham, when Sarah was well past her menopause, or deep into her menopause, and these angels came and announced that next year by this time, your wife Sarah, they were telling Abraham, will give birth to a son. Sarah laughed, and her response was that, at this age, will my Lord take pleasure in me? In other words, Sarah dismissed the idea that at her age she could ever have any interest in attaining sexual orgasm, or for that matter, even enjoying sex to a point that she will conceive. But that was further from the truth. Uh, with a God who is a God of impossibility, it did happen. And in fact, even after Sarah's death, Abraham married another wife who was able to give birth to other children uh, past the age of 90, and even hitting over 100. So there is no age limit. There's just some basic informations that you need, and some exercises that you need to do, and you can well be able to enjoy each other this pleasure even in very old age, and so this number of episodes that we'll be looking at addressing this issue is not restricted to a certain age group of men or husbands. There are young couple that just got married that would certainly be having this problem as well, and you would look at why that issue is so rampant, and there's a lot of root causes we will look at. And for younger people, the problem might just be the fact that they were so used to masturbation, or they lived promiscuous life before they got married. And in those situations, it was a quick type of thing. They didn't want to be caught. And so they did it just quickly. Or they use masturbation, and they just, the goal of masturbation is to ejaculate as quick as possible. So you get out of that guilty feeling. And so you have tuned your body to that quick release type of syndrome. And now you get married and you want to last longer. You have to unwind your mind and your thoughts with that, and learn new ways to be able to overcome that habit that you had created even before you got married. Okay, so those could be just some of the initial issues that you are faced with that can easily be addressed with a few thoughts and exercises. So we'll be looking at that. So comparing yourself with other men is a little obsession for most guys. In addition to knowing whether they are normal, they also want to know how they measure up against other husbands. And that should not be your goal. You should not be worried about how long other husbands last. And as men, when you meet, you are likely to hear stories of how some husbands might brag of how long they last. But that is not an issue you should be concerning yourself with. It's not a competition. So comparing yourself with other men will get you into a situation where you become obsessed about how long you last. So in addition to knowing whether you are normal, they also want to know how they measure against other husbands. That shouldn't be something that you should be doing. What is the right amount of time? You may ask. Does it really happen that some husbands can have sexual intercourse all night, as they hear in stories, while some husbands out there can last all night? The average sex session doesn't last as long as you think. Now, statistics reports varying amounts of time depending on which study you are looking at. Now, according to a famous sexologist, Alfred Kingsley, males last about 2 minutes on the average. On average, 2 minutes. That's what the average time that male lasts with their erections. Now, it is important to also remember that his research dates far back in the 1960s. Okay, so that that data may even somehow be outdated, but it is said that it's even getting the time, it's even getting lesser and lesser in recent times. So if these sexologists uh, did this study in the 1960s and realized that the average man or husband can last only uh, 2 to 3 minutes, in fact on the average just 2 minutes, and this study was done in the 1960s. And it said that the issue has even become worse. Then it stands to mean that some men can only last for seconds. Some men now, some husbands now can only last for seconds. And that is the problem that husbands are facing in these modern times. According to another study, most men last between 3 to 10 minutes. Many husbands out there don't engage in marathon sex, but that does not mean they don't have satisfying sex. So there you may hear of men bragging of how long they are able to last all night. They just may be bragging because on the average, it is said that it's between 3 to 10 minutes. So don't allow somebody's boastings of how he can do it all night long bother you. It's not a matter of how long it is done, but the quality of it. And so, even though men are not experiencing marathon like type of sexual encounters, they invariably are able to satisfy themselves within the short amount of time that they can hold an erection. But again, it is not an issue of how long it can be held, but how you can program yourself in such a way that whichever times you can prolong the 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 the, the number of minutes you can hold an erection in order to get your wife to come to a point that you can both meet. And that is key, and that is what a lot of these episodes that follows in addressing this, finding the root causes of this erectile dysfunction. Those are the root causes that uh, we are going to resolve. We are going to find easy, simple techniques that can be used to resolve this issue. Now, it's important to remember that lasting long enough isn't based on numbers. That's what I mentioned. It's not based on numbers. Each couple's experience will be different. And each time you have sex, it might be different too. For example, there is a possibility that your wife doesn't want to spend hours and hours making love every time you jump into bed. So it is not some wives may not even want that. They just may not desire that. Okay, so it might not be different to it might not be something that they would wish to do. Occasionally she may want a quickie, and sometimes a mere extended session. So many factors play into it, such as your mood, the amount of time you have, etc. Those are things that you need to consider. And so the amount of time um, that that an erection can be kept is very relative to each couple. um, uh, an erection of 5 to 10 minutes may just be enough for a couple to have a satisfying love making encounter. And it will all depend on how they have studied each other's bodies and each other's level of excitement and triggers in that order. Now, again, once they get to know each other's metabolism in the area of how fast they can get to the plateau in the act of love making, or how slow they can get there, then they can both time each other and still have very pleasurable, enjoyable times of love making, to an extent that they both can gain orgasm. And the reason why this is very important, you, the man, when the Bible says that the husband should fulfill her wife's sexual needs, you need to take it seriously, in the sense that you have to understand, as we stated, the studies have shown that in our last episode, when you fail as a husband to give your wife a full blast of orgasm in the act of intercourse, to some extent, you are cutting short certain aspects of her love making encounter. And for that matter, it could become a chronic problem to her in the future. Now, she may be interested in just satisfying you and opening up herself for you to ejaculate and leave. But the fact that when you arouse her sexually, certain glands and blood vessels begin to open, awaiting a point where it will get to a peak. Now, when you short circuit the system without bringing her to that peak, and these blood vessels have opened in the pelvic area, and the muscles have stretched in the pelvic area, awaiting the ultimum or the ultimate goal of gaining orgasm, and you short circuit it, then it begins to have an unnatural contraction in the muscle area and the blood vessels area, because it wasn't stretched to the optimum where there was an actual series of contractions that take place in the pelvic area of the woman during orgasm. And so when you keep short circuiting the process, it can become a chronic problem for your wife. And this is something that most men are not aware of. Now, we in our last episode we talked of the fact that when you don't drive your wife to the optimal of gaining orgasm, and you leave her halfway, it is possible that such wives eventually would develop some fatigue after each and after any time they have a sexual encounter with you. Because why? You didn't send them fully to a point where they gain orgasm, where then the muscles can now relax in a restful, peaceful mode. And so you find when you find your wife consistently becoming fatigued and you have headaches after each time after you have a sexual encounter with her, and so she doesn't look forward to those times. The studies have shown that is as a result of the failure of the man in pleasurizing her to a point where she can gain orgasm and experience those muscular contractions in her pelvic area that can then relax after orgasm. And so you will be surprised that after you have learned these and are able to drive your wife to orgasm, you will be surprised that certain fatigue and headaches and pains will cease. Because why? You have engaged the pelvic muscles, and the blood vessels in her pelvic area have been stretched to a point that the various series of contractions that it was expecting has taken place. And so the muscles are now able to then relax. And that is why it is important. It is so important that if you have this problem as a man, erectile dysfunction, and are not able to satisfy her, it is important you learn the tricks and the techniques to be able to overcome this problem, so you can be able to pleasurize your wife to an extent that you can always at least give her an orgasm if she wants to. And it's not all women who would at every sexual encounter will want to do that. But I don't know why they will not want to, because it's the ultimate goal of pleasurizing and relaxing yourselves. And so it is so important that men take this seriously and look at the root causes why they are unable to last long enough to bring their wives to a point that they will gain this orgasmic experience. Okay, so occasionally she may not want to go an extended session, and that is okay. Many factors will come into play why she may not. She may just be tired and may not want to go that whole long session as some men brag about. But whatever time you spend with each other as a couple, once you get to understand the timings of each other, you will be in a position to satisfy each other and come to the climax once you get your timings right and manage to be able, you the man, you the husband, you manage to be able to last a little longer. Now obviously we have learned what the woman can do to even speed up their own orgasm. So we've learned about that the PC, the contraction of the PC muscle, is something that they can begin doing to get them to a point that they can initiate and come quicker, so you both can meet. Now if the husband's erection period is so short, and the wife has learned the PC muscle contraction technique, she can bring herself apart faster to be able to have them meet and have her gain orgasm than before. And that is why these studies are so unique and important, and that there are solutions out there that husbands can seek out and find to solve some of these problems, which can easily be able to save your marriage. To be honest with you, this knowledge you are gaining will virtually be able, and some men that Dr. Whit introduced this solving this problem solution, this solution to ED, literally told him, they testified that he virtually saved their marriage just by teaching them these techniques and helping them give their partners the optimum pleasure in love making. Okay, so don't take it lightly. As a man, it is a lot of information that is going to be very helpful to you. And so stay tuned and listen to the rest of these episodes as we now spend time to address the issues of the husband. So I believe that what you are most looking for in these episodes is to be able to control yourself when you want to have an orgasm. Okay, so in any situation, no matter what the demand, you should be capable of lasting as long as you need to, once you learn these techniques. So in the next podcast series, you will find techniques and knowledge to assist you in your endeavor. So stay tuned. So as I said, uh, the next episode we will look at the some of the root causes of erectile dysfunction, and then once we look at the root causes, we will begin to look at the solutions to these root causes. Now, I have given a reference list or a bibliography of where a lot of this information is coming from. There are even online websites that you can get. When you look at the detailed references, you can get it on my Facebook page. You can look at the references and the websites that you can even go to read further about these studies. Or you can also go to www.authenticlifeidentity.com, look at the devotional session. The script or the transcript of this podcast is there. You can look at the details and have the references and the websites that these studies were conducted are reported. Okay, so or you can also obviously, if you have subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can also get the transcripts from YouTube. But in general, I just want to say that again, as a believer, if Christ is in your marriage, there is nothing that is impossible for your God to do. And so, the worst thing you can do is to resign yourself and accept the fact that, as for sexual intimacy and gaining orgasm, is out of your reach. You are old, and then you cannot have that. So just forget it. That's the worst thing you can do. It doesn't cost you anything to just look out for this information. For lack of knowledge, you will be putting your marriage under strain, where even maybe for you, it's just a matter of how you breathe during love making. Your breathing in and breathing out can have something to do with how long your erection will last. Simple things like that. You gain knowledge of it, and boom, your problem is resolved. And you'll be surprised. You wonder why you kept this away from this for this long. And so that is the purpose of these episodes, to offer uh, time tested information that will help you spice up your marriage and help you fulfill your responsibility as a husband in satisfying your wife's sexual needs. Thank you for taking time to listen to today's devotional podcast. Take time to pass your comments on Facebook, and obviously on you can also pass your comments on YouTube. uh, there is a place for comments, and also on my website. On the website, feel free to pass comments there as well. So thank you so much for taking time to listen to today's devotional podcast. Shall we pray? Our Most High God, thank you for this information. Your word says, for lack of knowledge, my people perish. I pray that this knowledge that they have gained today would help them spice up their marriage and destroy every footstool the enemy will seek to have in their marriage. Thank you for this time. We invite you into our marriage, and we ask that whatever the problem is, if there are physical damages in our body, in our systems, we ask for your divine touch and healing. For there is nothing that is impossible for you. In your precious name, I pray. Amen. Yes, beloved, thank you for listening. Check us out on our YouTube channel and our website and Facebook. God bless.